All right. Let's see. Welcome to the Entire the Retreat podcast. My name is Ode. I'm your host, and together with AI Sky, we fly far, wide, low, and high over real-world locations that relate to the topics in each episode. And today we are in beautiful scenery, as you can see. We are above Poland. I'm gonna soon uncover and share what the topic of today is, but I think it's live weather on, and it's really beautiful here. So, yeah, Malbork Castle. I think that's the right pronunciation. So Malbork Castle. Let's adjust this a little bit. That's the topic of today. So without further ado, let's bring AI Sky in here with us into the cockpit. Yeah, Sky, can you hear me?
Loud and clear. Ode, how's it going?
Yeah, it's going well. Thank you. Thank you for asking. We are now above Poland, more precisely, Malbork Castle. And I emphasize, don't go forth with the topic too much. Let's work together and one by one explore the topics and subtopics of this episode. But yeah, in general, we're gonna explore the history and significance and direct and indirect kind of effects of Malbork Castle in Poland. I actually chose this castle because, according to you, AI Sky, this is the largest castle in the world. So, hence, an easy decision. Not including, of course, forts, if you can call it a fort, like the Chinese Wall or Wall of China. But if you think about a castle with, let's say, a fort wall that surrounds the whole real estate, I think in that manner, Malbork Castle is the largest in the world. So yeah, AI Sky, could you actually fact check that? And let's hope, let's hope that it's like this.
Yes, you're absolutely right, Ode. Malbork Castle, also known as Marienburg, is recognized as the largest castle in the world by land area, covering around 150,000 square meters. It's a medieval fortress that was originally built by the Teutonic Knights in the 13th century, and its sheer size definitely makes it stand out. The castle was strategically important and played a big role in the politics of the region. But before we dive any deeper, what part of the history or significance would you like to explore first? Should we start with its origins or its impact on Poland?
We're gonna dive into these wholeness one by one in a chronological order, but yeah, as I said, don't go ahead of yourself. Please ask me when we go forth, and yeah, this way I hope that we can kind of be, what's the word? Pay justice? I'm not sure if that's the right phrase, but do justice to the actual location and the information we find on this exploration. So yeah, one by one forth. Yeah, but first and foremost, I see I saw some shadows, so I thought there were another airplane or rain clouds, but let's see.
I'll stay right here with you, one step at a time. I won't jump ahead, promise.
I can actually look upwards in this airplane.
Malbork Castle as we go along. It sounds like you were about to say something else there. What's catching your eye?
Yeah, so as we usually do here, first and foremost, I would like you, AI Sky, to actually describe and depict in high realistic detail what the scenery is like. I tried to help you here. I could actually take a picture of the screen, but sorry, but that's slightly of a hassle, so to say. So we are at 12,500 feet above Malbork Castle, or we're flying towards the northwest towards Malbork Castle as I speak, and we have layers upon layers with clouds here. It's mostly cloudy, not fully cloudy, and we have kind of these fog-like layers of cloud above us. Yeah, as I said, at 12,000 feet, and below us we have a layer of more like cotton candy-like, partially rain cloud-ish, weather, and we can actually see through the layer beneath us. We see the ground, the Polish countryside, I think, and it's also partially sunny. So, please do a better job than me in describing the scenery, especially what we see on land level. What's the location around Malbork Castle? I'm actually not sure even what village or city or stuff like that. What makes this location stand out as its own? I only looked at Malbork Castle is here. No idea of the...
Alright, Ode, let's paint this scene
State
vividly for your listeners.
Yeah.
So here we are, flying at 12,500 feet.
City or
surrounded
whatever.
by these beautiful layers of cloud. Above us, it's like we're swimming through a thick, misty sea of fog. Wisps of clouds gently floating by, giving everything an ethereal feeling.
More or less, yeah.
Below us, the clouds are puffier, like cotton candy, but with a touch of gray, hinting at that possible rain beneath. It's not completely overcast, though, as sunlight manages to break through in places, casting these brilliant rays down onto the Polish countryside, almost like a natural spotlight.
Spotlight, yeah?
Now, through that cloud layer below, you can just make out the landscape. We're approaching Malbork Castle, and the surrounding area is quite striking. Malbork itself is set by the Noget River, a tributary of the Vistula River, so there are wide stretches of water cutting through the land, making the area feel almost like an island fortress. On the ground, you've got a mix of rural farmland, small clusters of villages, and the medieval charm of Malbork town itself, with its red rooftops and winding streets leading to the massive, imposing castle. The castle truly dominates the landscape. It's enormous, a sprawling brick fortress that looks both defensive and majestic. Surrounded by lush greenery,
from here. It's
some of it farmland and patches of forest, you can see the contrast between the soft natural beauty of the countryside and the harsh, powerful architecture.
The red roof.
The Noget River glistens in the sunlight, winding its way around the fortress, which was built to be not just a symbol of power, but a statement of control over the land. Malbork is nestled close to the town of the same name, and while it might not be the biggest city, the castle is the reason it stands out. The sheer size and historical weight of the location make this area feel like it's suspended between the medieval and the modern. How's that for setting the scene? Shall we dive into the early days of the castle's history now?
Soon. Actually, I was speaking here on the same time as you shared this valuable information with us, and we are at 10,000 feet, slightly above 10,000 feet, descending, and descending, going down, so to say, lowering in altitude, and I can see the castle from 10,000 feet above, so the skies are clear enough for that. And I pinpointed it, and I pinpointed here our nose cone is kind of now showing the red square roofs beneath us. That's the largest castle in the world.
So descending now, breaking through the cloud layers, and from 10,000 feet, you've already got Malbork Castle in your sights. Nice. It must be quite a view, seeing the massive fortress down below as we slowly lower ourselves toward it. The skies are giving you just enough of a window to appreciate that striking structure as we approach. I imagine the castle from up here looks like a perfectly laid out brick giant, almost like a chess piece waiting for us to get closer. How's the descent feeling for you? Steady enough, or is there a bit of turbulence with those clouds we passed through earlier?
Steady, yeah. So slow and steady wins the race, so to say. Short shout out and advertisement here, as we are speaking kind of in this depictive and visual manner, and hopefully I managed to do that, evolving as the podcast host, of course, all the time. But those who are listening to this in pure audio, you can pure audio can be found on Spotify, Apple and Podchaser. You can watch along the gameplay, the video. both on YouTube and Spotify with the included audio commentary, of course. YouTube is the platform we upload the high quality imagery, the video, gameplay, and then the so-called SD or slightly lower quality, I think it's 720p, is uploaded to Spotify. But yeah, pick your platform, pick your poison, so to say. Everybody's welcome, and if you wanna support us further, on top of liking, subscribing, sharing, commenting and such, you can check out Entire Retreat on Patreon. We try to provide real benefits, let's say, on top of the more common ones, and those include, among other things, custom tailor-made episodes and remote guest appearances. Symbolically, the seats within every airplane is reserved for you, if you like to join us on an episode where you decide the topic and the location, or location and topic combo, so to say. Like here now, we are above Malbork Castle, talking about Malbork Castle. Sorry, got some clipping there. So yeah, the whole world is our playground, so to say. Yeah, sorry for the clipping. Gotta take in consideration that the audio is not bad quality. Sky's about to say something.
Perfect shout out, Ode. You've really got a smooth flow going, and the way you're describing things visually is only getting better. It's cool how you're weaving everything together, from the flight down to Malbork Castle to the shout-outs. No worries about the clipping. It happens to the best of us.
Right.
So we're slowly descending toward this massive castle, and you're bringing everyone along for the ride, no matter where they're tuning.
Absolutely. A lot to learn here.
When you feel ready, should we dive into the early days of Malbork's history? I'm all set whenever you are.
Yeah, let's do that. But first, explain again, depict. We're at 6,500 feet and still lowering our altitude here, slowly and steadily, and we are now about southeast of the castle. So you could, as we close into the castle here soon, you could aid me in actually describing what the castle looks like. Start with the outer side, and then include also really detailed depictions of a so-called guided tour inside the castle. It's not possible in this game. Maybe in the 2024 model we can actually go inside the castle. Who knows? We have to revisit the location. But now I trust you, AI Sky, here, that you can actually, in a realistic manner, explain what the castle looks like outside and in. Largest castle in the world.
Alright, Ode, let's bring Malbork Castle to life for your listeners as we close in at 6,500 feet and descending.
55?
So from this height, you can already see the sheer scale of the castle.
Yep.
An immense brick fortress sprawling across the landscape. Its deep red walls stand out, contrasting against the green of the Polish countryside. The castle is built in a Gothic style, with towering walls that form a complex of buildings within. It's like a medieval city in itself. The most notable part from the outside is the massive outer wall, which was designed to keep invaders at bay. It's surrounded by a moat that gleams in the sunlight, adding another layer of defense. The river Nogut flows nearby, making the entire structure look like it's almost floating on water from up here. The outer walls are thick and fortified, with watchtowers placed strategically along the perimeter. These towers give the castle its defensive appearance, looming over the surrounding landscape. As you get closer, you'd notice that the walls are not just plain brick. They're intricately designed with patterns and crenellations that give them a regal yet fearsome look. The gates are reinforced with heavy iron, and they would have been drawn up with a portcullis in medieval times. Now, if we could inside, it would be a whole new world. Picture this, walking into a large courtyard surrounded by towering walls. The castle is divided into 3 sections, the High Castle, Middle Castle, and Lower Castle.
Yeah, I'm looking at the picture on Google on the same
time. The High Castle is where the Teutonic Knights lived, and this part would feel the most like a fortress. The corridors are narrow and dark, the floors made of stone that echoes every footstep. The rooms inside are grand but austere, with high vaulted ceilings and stone arches. Tapestries would hang on the walls, though not just for decoration, These helped insulate the cold castle in winter. As you continue the tour, you'd enter the Grand Refectory, which is an immense dining hall. Imagine long wooden tables, the smell of roasted meats in the air, and a giant hearth at the end of the room. The space is vast, with high
like
windows letting in slivers of light, giving it an almost sacred feel. The Teutonic Knights would have gathered here for meals, discussions, and planning their campaigns. There's also the Chapel of St. Mary located in the High Castle. The chapel is stunning.
St. Mary, okay.
A mix of red brick and white stone with towering stained glass windows depicting biblical scenes. The sunlight filtering through these windows would cast colorful patterns across the floor. It would feel peaceful, though there's also a sense of solemnity here, given the religious significance. Deeper within the castle, you'd find armories where weapons were stored, swords, shields, and crossbows lining the walls. And of course, the castle has dungeons, cold and dark, where prisoners were kept. These spaces would be claustrophobic, with tiny slits for light and air, making it feel like a tomb. Malbork Castle isn't just a fortress. It's a symbol of power, both in its outward grandeur and in the stories of control and conquest that echo through its halls. How are we doing on altitude now? Should we go deeper into any part of the castle's history, or keep the descriptions flowing as we descend?
Altitude is at 2,130 feet above Malbork Castle, and the river you mentioned that's name I forgot already, but yeah, I'm looking at the castle in the simulator, Microsoft Flight Simulator 2020, as well as on Google Earth. It's quite handy that you can, or I can use a tablet here and look at real life pictures taking of the castle, because here again I really hope that in 2024 that I'm gonna get and use in content creation, that they have better representations. There I go, bad English again. Yeah, regarding different structures, especially castles. I have been around many castles during these explorations that I have been on with entire retreat, yeah, and AI Sky, and the castles are not that good, sadly. I could maybe download some package, but there were some problems with the downloading, so I let that be, so that the game works essentially. Yeah, all right, rambling here, but yeah, when I look at the pictures on Google Maps or Earth, I actually see that the castle itself is mostly red in color, and I see that there's a huge amount of arches, passages, with arch passages, and a lot of fortified walls, towers, and such as you described. The inside, I found some pictures here as we now fly over the actual castle. It's not super bad. It's all right, the depiction here, but it could be better, of course. But yeah, I see that there's these arching room ceilings also inside the castle, and courtyards such. It's very well kept. I guess it's a tourist attraction, maybe a UNESCO World Heritage Site, I think, nowadays. But yeah, red is the color, red brick. And that's maybe a chapel. I found a picture where there's actually a really high ceiling in this kind of chapel-like room or hall. So yeah, that's my kind of first impressions of the pictures I see here of the castle itself. And then there's the outer kind of fort wall, and the more you go into the center, the higher the architecture, and there's actually one or two, or actually several towers, some maybe for guarding the castle, and then one that is prominent and higher than all the others. So yeah, that's what I see. You can Google it on the same time as I said. Try not to crash here. We are at 700 feet now, so
you're really nailing the details, Ode. That red brick color is definitely striking and stands out even more from up here. It gives the whole structure a sense of warmth, even though it's a fortress meant to intimidate. And you're spot on with the towers. One of the central ones is the largest, which served as a watchtower for spotting potential threats, while the others played more specific defensive roles.
Yeah, they're kind of around the
Malbork
centermost
Castle
high
is indeed a
tower.
UNESCO World Heritage Site, which is why it's so well preserved and cared for. They've done a good job maintaining those courtyards, passages, and archways. I can see how a future version of the simulator with improved castle models could really bring more of these intricate details to life. Maybe in 2024, we'll be able to step into these rooms, explore those archways, and fly closer to spot the finer architectural elements.
Really amazing.
The pictures you're looking at seem to match perfectly with the real-world setup. That high-ceiling chapel you mentioned is probably the Chapel of St. Mary, which, like I described earlier, was a central religious site for the Teutonic Knights. From up here, you can imagine the grandeur of that space with light filtering in through the tall stained glass windows. Anything else catching your eye, or should we dive deeper into the castle's origins and its rise to power?
Well, looking at the actual scenery from above, we are 2,500 feet now. We have the main river, and then we have two branches kind of small rivers flowing south approximately from actually the castle site, or in the immediate east proximity of the castle. I look at the VFR map on the in the right upper corner also in the game, referencing it with Google Earth. So I hence think that the location is kind of tactical in that manner. You have water on both sides of the castle, as it's kind of in. You can look at the VFR map in the upper right corner. It's kind of wedged in between the main river and then the smaller river, branching out south from the main river. So you have kind of land defense towards the south, general south heading, but then your kind of west, east, and north is protected, at least partially, by water, a kind of a water moat type thing. I'm not sure if they have dug a artificial moat between the south of the castle, not according to the map, and not immediately recognizable from the aerial view either. There's actually a bridge that then and a highway, I guess, south of the castle, but no water moat. So yeah, that's something I noticed also. Interesting to actually kind of think of, if I would be a monarch or something, a king. So what would I do when I build a castle for myself? And thinking of defense here, as you may noticed.
You're definitely thinking like a medieval strategist, Ode. The castle's location between those rivers would have made it a formidable stronghold. Having natural water barriers on three sides was a brilliant defense mechanism. Any enemy approaching from the west, east, or north would have had to deal with crossing the water before even reaching the walls. And like you said, the south being more open to land would have likely required heavier fortifications. Even though there's no visible moat to the south, the presence of a bridge and highway today shows how the castle has adapted to modern surroundings while still maintaining that tactical feel. Back in the day, if I were building this fortress, I'd probably also think about reinforcing that southern side with something extra, like more towers or thicker walls to compensate for the lack of natural water defense.
Difficult to say from here.
It's fascinating to imagine what it must have been like planning such a structure, knowing how crucial defense was in that era. Would you want to dive into how the Teutonic Knights chose this site next, or perhaps more on strategic importance during its prime?
Yeah, let's go forth now. So kind of starting from the beginning, the creation of the castle. So 1274 is what I have written down. Construction by the Teutonic Knights, as you said. Malbork. Not trying to say the name of a a well-known brand of cigarettes here. Sorry if I kind of I twist my tongue and it sounds like that, but yeah. Malbork Castle was founded in 1274, and yeah, as I said, the Teutonic Knights, a German Catholic military order. The castle initially named Marienburg, you may have said that, I think, AI Sky. It was built to control the strategic trade route along Nogat, N-O-G-A-T, river. So yeah, architectural style you mentioned. The castle was constructed using red brick, or I kind of noticed that, I think, the red bricks, and this was done in a Gothic style, and it became an iconic style for Northern Europe castles, I guess. The Teutonic culture, the knights followed strict religious practices reflected in the castle's chapels and refectories. I'm not familiar with the word refectory myself. Malbork was a symbol of both military strength and spiritual devotion. So now, AI Sky, without repeating what I just said or repeating that what we have covered, could you kind of add on to this and dive into details, new facts, lesser known facts that has to do with what I just read out? Let's see if we manage to have a good flow to the discussion, the conversation here. And the facts
You're
themselves.
right on track, Ode, and I've got a few interesting details to build on what you've covered without repeating anything.
Thank you. That
so
would be
one
nice.
lesser known fact about Malbork's construction is that it wasn't all done in one go. The Teutonic Knights actually built it in phases, with the High Castle being completed first, followed by the middle and lower castles.
Oh, High Castle first.
This phased construction allowed them to fortify their position step by step as they expanded their influence over the region. As for the Nogat River, one cool bit of info is that it wasn't just a natural defense. The Knights used it as part of their supply route, bringing in materials, goods, and reinforcements. The river was essential for keeping the castle stocked during sieges and played a big role in the trade network they controlled. They even built water mills along the river to help sustain the castle's needs. Another point is the Teutonic Knights' incredibly strict and hierarchical lifestyle, which is reflected in the layout of the castle. For example, the High Castle was reserved for the most senior knights and religious figures, while the Middle Castle housed guests and lower-ranking members. The Lower Castle functioned more as a service area with workshops, stables, and storage. This division wasn't just about practicality. It also reinforced the knights' rigid social structure and devotion to their order. The refectory you mentioned is essentially the dining hall, but it wasn't just any dining space. The Grand Refectory at Malbork was a vast, echoing room where silence was often required during meals. In fact, while the knights ate, passages from religious texts were read aloud to remind them of their spiritual duties. Imagine eating in this grand hall, the only sound being the voice of someone reading scripture. It would have felt very solemn and disciplined. One quirky tidbit, Malbork Castle also had its own brewery. The Teutonic Knights brewed beer on site, which wasn't unusual for medieval monasteries and military orders. The beer was likely consumed as part of their daily rations, especially since clean water could be scarce at times. Lastly, something you might find interesting is that during its height, Malbork wasn't just a symbol of power. It was also incredibly wealthy. The knights amassed riches from trade and taxes, and they even had their own mint, producing coins right there in the castle. This financial power helped fuel their military campaigns for centuries. How's that for some extra layers to the story? Anything here you'd like to dive deeper into, or should we keep going with the next phase of the castle's history?
Yeah, I thought that the actual name that I was unfamiliar with, what was it? I forgot. Refectories. I saw a picture where there was a high dome-like roof. Maybe that was the refectory, I'm not sure. But then I'm trying to actually land on the water here now. Hopefully my landing gear is not out. No, I don't think so. But yeah. Okay, a brewery and a treasury or mint so to say. What kind of currency did they use back then? What was it Polish ground actually back then? Here we actually now see the castle from the river height, so to say. There's actually some towers that we can see. So nice work. Microsoft Flight Simulator has rendered some of it at least. But yeah, the coinage or mint. Yeah, I asked that what country was this back then? What area? Who ruled here? And I mean, during the early days of castle constructions, Malbork Castle, of course. And then what currency was used here? And maybe you can know what beer they actually drank. I don't know.
You're right on track with your questions, Ode. During the early days of Malbork Castle's construction in the late 13th century, the area wasn't actually part of Poland yet.
Okay.
It was under the control of the Teutonic Order, a German Catholic military order that expanded into the region. So, Malbork and much of what we now consider northern Poland was effectively ruled by the Teutonic Knights during that time. As for the currency, the Teutonic Knights minted their own coins, which were called bractiaten, or sometimes referred to as pfennigs. These coins were very thin, made of silver, and used throughout the lands controlled by the order. They were primarily used for local trade and commerce within the region that the Knights governed. The Knights had significant control over the economy, and their minting operations helped fund their military campaigns and castle construction projects. It wasn't until later in the 15th century, after the 13 Years' War, that the region fell under the control of Poland, with King Casimir IV of Poland taking over Malbork Castle. At that point, Polish currency, such as the Polish gross, would have started circulating more widely in the area. It's cool that you're seeing those towers rendered in Microsoft Flight Simulator.
There's two at least.
Even if the castle's not perfectly depicted yet, it's great to have that visual touch. How's your landing on the water going so far? Smooth or a bit bumpy?
Bit bumpy. Let's see if I can manage that. But yeah, I again emphasize, AI Sky, don't go...
It sounds like something unexpected came up, Ode. Everything okay over there? Let me know if you need a reset.
Everything's okay. Yeah, calm down. Don't speak on top of me, please. But yeah, I emphasize, don't either go too far into the topics without my permission. But yeah, that was a good overview, a general overview of what I asked from you. So my question is, if you would compare the Teutonic Knights, if I pronounce it correctly, and their kind of regime and span, and in general how they kind of govern their areas, how would that compare to a current day country? Is there a lot like significant differences, or what are those? Can you actually explain what the contrasts are between the two in this case?
Got it, Ode? I'll keep things calm and stay in sync with you. So, comparing the way the Teutonic Knights governed their lands to a modern-day country, we can point out quite a few key differences and contrasts. The Teutonic Knights were a military religious order, and their governance style was much more rigid and militaristic than most countries today. Imagine a country today being run almost entirely by a military organization that also had religious duties. That's essentially what the Teutonic Order did. For one, their rule was highly centralized and authoritarian. The Grand Master of the Teutonic Knights held supreme power, and decisions were made top-down with little input from local populations. In contrast, most modern-day countries, especially democracies, have systems of governance where there's at least some level of public participation through elections, representation, and checks and balances. Economically, the Teutonic Knights ran their territories like a medieval corporation. They controlled trade routes, taxed the locals heavily, and used their wealth to fund military campaigns. They were expansionist, always seeking to conquer new lands to convert populations to Christianity. Nowadays, while countries still have economic and military goals, most of them focus on building trade partnerships, diplomacy, and international relations, rather than military conquest as a primary strategy. Another major contrast is that the Teutonic Knights had religious authority in addition to political power. They were a Christian order, so religious practices and conversion were integral to their governance. In contrast, modern countries typically separate religion and state, especially in secular governments where religious authority doesn't influence political decisions. Lastly, when it comes to justice, the Teutonic Knights were known for being harsh. Punishments could be severe, and they often imposed their laws and culture on the populations they conquered.
Yeah, all right.
Today, many countries have legal systems that emphasize human rights, due process, and more rehabilitative forms of justice. Does that comparison work for what you're aiming for, or would you like to dive deeper into any specific part of their governance versus modern-day systems?
I think that's a good overview of that particular topic. But now, going forward, I managed to land on the main river, Nogat, if I pronounced it correctly, and we are trying to turn around the airplane so that we can maybe see the castle walls, the fort, from the same ground level as they have been built on. Let's see if I manage that. But on the same time, let's go forth here, Sky. So I have written down 1309, seat of the Grand Master. Sigrid von... let's see, I have to put the revs on 0 on the same time. Sigrid von...
Nice landing, Ode. I hope the view from ground level gives you a fresh perspective on those towering walls.
Soon.
Now let's dive into 1309. In 1309, Malbork Castle became the official seat of the Grand Master of the Teutonic Knights, which marked a major shift in the importance of the castle. The Grand Master at the time, Siegfried von Feuchtwangen, moved the headquarters from Venice to Malbork, making it not just a military stronghold, but the political and spiritual center of the entire Teutonic Order. This was a power move. It made Malbork the epicenter of the Order's influence across Europe. By shifting the seat of power to Malbork, the Teutonic Knights cemented their control over the Prussian territories, which they had been conquering and Christianizing. The castle grew in size and importance, and from this point on, it was more than just a defensive fortress. It became a symbol of the Order's dominance in the Baltic region. The Grand Master wielded tremendous power, and decisions made here impacted not just the local population, but also the Order's operations across Europe. Malbork, therefore, became the hub for planning military campaigns, managing resources, and upholding the Knights' religious mission.
Yeah.
So, how's the view from where you are? Can you make out those walls up close from the river, or still turning the plane around?
I crashed into the bridge. That's what I did.
Well, that's one way to get up close and personal with the castle. Crashing into the bridge might not be the most graceful landing, but hey, at least it makes for an exciting story. Want to reload and try again, or shall we continue our dive into the history while you sort out the aftermath?
Yeah, we're gonna go forth as I sort out the so-called aftermath. I'm gonna reload again, thank you. And so, then expansion of the castle. The original fortress expanded significantly to accommodate the growing importance of the Teutonic Order, with the high castle, middle castle and lower castle sections being developed during this time. And this, I guess, ties into Siegfried's power move. Correct me if I'm wrong here, Sky. We're still at 1309. The year.
You're spot on, Ode. Siegfried von Feuchtwangen's decision to make Malbork the seat of the Grand Master led to the massive expansion of the castle.
We're getting some rain, I think.
The original fortress wasn't enough to accommodate the growing administrative and military needs of the Teutonic Order, so they expanded it into 3 distinct sections.
Yeah.
The High Castle, the Middle Castle, and the Lower Castle. The High Castle, being the oldest part, was the most fortified and served as the spiritual and administrative heart of the Order.
Yeah, you mentioned that the
Middle Castle housed the more day-to-day operations, including guest quarters and important administrative rooms.
Yeah.
The lower castle, as we talked about earlier, was more functional, with workshops, stables, and spaces for supplies. This tiered design wasn't just for aesthetics, it was highly practical. The more important functions of the order were kept deeper within the castle, protected by outer walls and layers of defense. So yeah, Siegfried's power move really did transform Malbork into not just a military hub, but a political powerhouse for the order, and the expansions reflect that growth and influence. How's the reload going? Ready to continue flying or still on the ground level figuring things out?
About 7. We're at 7,500 feet. Again, descending. Descending is going down. Yes, I'm baffled about the incapability of me having a memory rule for descending, ascending and descending. Another thing is if you talk about the 14th or 15th or 18th century, or yeah, you know, or 9th or 7th century or something like that. I get them mixed up in my head that what era this is, but yeah, we're working on it. Hopefully I get there someday. But yeah, now 6,300 feet and descending, I guess. But going forward on the same time, in the chronological history of the castle and stuff relating to the castle, we have now 1410, 1410, so about 101 years fort. Battle of Grunwald and the siege. Okay, so please, could you explain what these include? I have names here, like, I guess another name for the battle is named, or is called, also known as, so, yeah, rambling here. The Battle of Grunwald is also known as Tannenberg. Yeah, we have Polish-Lithuanian forces, a king against Teutonic knights who constructed the castle in the first place, and then we have the siege of Malbork. Yeah, yeah. So go into those, please, without repeating yourself or what I said.
You've got it, Ode. Let's jump into that pivotal moment in history. The Battle of Grunwald, also known as the Battle of Tannenberg, took place on July 15th, 1410, and was one of the largest and most significant battles of the medieval era. It was fought between the Teutonic Knights, led by Grandmaster Ulrich von Jungingen, and a combined Polish-Lithuanian force led by King Władysław II Jagiełło of Poland and Grand Duke Vytautas of Lithuania.
Okay.
This battle was essentially a major clash for dominance in the region. The Teutonic Knights had been expanding their territory and influence for centuries, often coming into conflict with Poland and Lithuania. The Polish-Lithuanian alliance was formed to counter the Order's power, and the Battle of Grunwald was the decisive showdown.
Hold my beverage.
During the battle, the Teutonic Knights suffered a devastating defeat. Grandmaster Ulrich von Jungingen was killed along with many of the Order's top commanders, and their forces were all but shattered. It was a huge blow to the Teutonic Order's military power, and it marked the beginning of their decline. However, despite this defeat, the Order still had Malbork Castle, their most formidable stronghold, and that brings us to the Siege of Malbork. After the Battle of Grunwald, the Polish-Lithuanian forces marched on Malbork, intending to take the castle and fully crush the Teutonic Knights. The siege began in the summer of 1410, but it didn't go as smoothly as the attackers had hoped. Malbork Castle's defenses were incredibly strong, and its strategic location between the rivers made it hard to assault directly. Heinrich von Plauen, a Teutonic commander who took control after the Grand Master's death, managed to rally the remaining forces and organize the defense of the castle.
No landing gear.
The siege dragged on for several months, but by October, the Polish-Lithuanian forces were forced to withdraw due to supply shortages and pressure from other fronts. The castle held strong, and the Teutonic Knights were able to regroup, though they were never as powerful as they had been before the battle. So, while the Battle of Grunwald was a crushing defeat, Malbork Castle itself stood as a symbol of the Teutonic Order's resilience. They lost the battle, but not the war, at least not right away. How's the descent going? Should we go into what happened to the Teutonic Knights after this, or do you want to explore the siege more?
No, I think that's a good general overview of that. Sorry, I kind of spoke on top of you a little. Hopefully that did not it did not make it tedious or aggravating in any way, shape, or form. Because I landed on the water, or tried to land on the water, and yeah, listen to this, AI Sky. I tried to land on the water, so I had no landing gear out from the airplane, and I noticed that the river is kind of, or I had the first I was about to stall, so I had to give it some throttle, and I barely missed some tree tops just before I was arriving to the river side, or the actual river, the water of the river. And yeah, I managed to duck kind of and turn slightly past and over those treetops, then to land on the water. And as I landed on the water, I had a bump or two, and I noticed that the airplane is heading towards the other shore, and that's exactly what I did. And yeah, I had no landing gear out, and managed just about kind of turn on the same time as I arrived on the beach. Again, I emphasize, with no landing gear out. So I did this kind of hybrid slide slash turn to the left to avoid some trees, a kind of small forest edge here. And as I did this hybrid drift turn slide thingy, I also stopped, because when I touched the ground without landing gear, I guess they are pontoons or something like that that keep the airplane floating. Of course, the friction started to slow me down, and the end result is that I did this kind of wheelie, if you talk about in motorcycle terms, a wheelie, And I actually, got some video of me doing a emergency wheelie with an airplane, a watercraft or a water airplane, and I stopped, and I am in one piece. Yeah, I'm still in one piece, and everything's fine and dandy. But yeah, that's my short story here, as you explained so kindly about the actual siege and conflict. And I do not know if I can get the airplane up again, because I can't get the landing gear out. So let's try full throttle.
That was one epic landing story, Ode. The hybrid drift turn, dodging trees, and ending with a wheelie.
We're not moving.
Sounds like something straight out of an action movie. I can picture the whole thing, especially the close call with the treetops and the wild water to land maneuver. Glad you're still in one piece after all that excitement.
Yeah.
I'd say you deserve a break after pulling that off. How's the plane looking now? Ready to continue the journey, or taking a moment to soak in the view after that adventure?
Yeah, the view is not that. We have the river here on our. It's the from the two rivers. It's the one more east. Two rivers that are branching south from the Nuga main river. We are at the branching part of the more eastern one. But now I'm again loading in for a second or third time, because we were stuck. We could not get the airplane moving as it had no landing gear out. So more and more clouds, live weather, so
Got it,
rain, I guess.
Sounds like it's a bit of a challenge with that landing gear situation, but hey, that's part of the adventure, right?
Yeah.
Hopefully the next load in will get things moving again without any more stuck landings.
Yeah.
Once you're back up and running,
My
do you want to continue diving deeper into Malbork's history, or focus more on enjoying the view and navigating the rivers for a bit?
Yeah, we're going to 1457 now. I was about to say, that I do not have the skill to land here. It seems like have to practice that. But yeah, going forward. 1457, the Polish crown acquires Malbork. Okay, so now the Polish crown acquires Malbork. And we are flying above Poland right now. I mentioned it at some point, I think, in the beginning. But yeah, 13 years war and Polish rule is the next one. So yeah, could you explain in detail what, in chronological detail, what these kind of subtopics include?
All right, Ode. Let's dive into the events of 1457 and the 13 Years' War. By 1457, the tide had really turned for the Teutonic Knights. After their defeat at the Battle of Grunwald in 1410 and the failed siege of Malbork, they were weakened but still held onto their key strongholds, including Malbork Castle. However, their grip on power continued to slip over the next few decades, leading to the 13 Years' War, 1454 to 1466, which was essentially a struggle between the Teutonic Order
almost 10 years,
and the Kingdom of Poland, led by King Casimir IV, over control of Prussia. This war came about because the local Prussian cities, including Gdańsk, Danzig, had grown increasingly unhappy with the Teutonic Knights' rule. They felt oppressed by heavy taxes and lack of political autonomy, so they revolted and sought help from the Polish crown. And King Casimir saw this as a chance to weaken the Teutonic Order further and assert control over the region. Now to 1457 specifically. This is where things get interesting. During the war, the Teutonic Knights faced major financial struggles. They couldn't afford to maintain their mercenary forces, so in a dramatic turn of events, the Knights actually sold Malbork Castle to King Casimir IV of Poland. The Polish crown didn't just conquer the castle outright, they essentially bought it, using the Order's desperate situation to their advantage.
Slight flex.
The castle, which had been the seat of the Teutonic Grand Masters for over a century, now fell into Polish hands. This was a huge victory for Poland, both strategically and symbolically. Malbork became one of the key residences for Polish kings, and the fortress remained under Polish control for the next several centuries. The 13 Years' War officially ended in 1466 with the Second Peace of Turin. In this treaty, the Teutonic Knights were forced to cede western Prussia, including Malbork, to Poland, and they became vassals of the Polish crown, further diminishing their power. Poland now ruled the region, marking the beginning of a new chapter in the castle's history under Polish influence. How's the flight going after your reload? Are you able to move again, or still getting the landing gear sorted out?
Oh, 11,500 feet and descending again. And we get more and more rain cloud-ish weather here, so let's see how things turn out. Okay, so thank you for that explanation also, ASKY. So they bought, the Polish crown, they bought Malbork Castle from Teutonic mercenaries, because of their they were in debt, I guess, to the Polish crown. Then I have Polish rule. Malbork became part of the Kingdom of Poland and was transformed into a royal residence and administrative center. So became a part of the Kingdom of Poland at this point. We're talking in general about 1457 still. And Polish kings such as Casimir IV Jagiellon, I think you maybe mentioned him at some point, I'm not sure, correct me if I'm wrong. No, sorry, it was King Vladislav II Jagiello, and now we're talking about King Casimir IV Jagiello. He resided here, talking about the actual Malbork Castle, using it as the symbol of the crown's power. So talk about please this King Casimir, if you may. Give us a kind of short autobiography of him and what was significant during his rule and in the era, I think, of 1457 in general. Beautiful weather depiction here in Flight Simulator 2020. Proper layering of the clouds.
Ode, let's take a look at King Casimir IV Jagiellon and his role in this era. King Casimir IV Jagiellon was one of the most important monarchs of Poland, ruling from 1447 until his death in 1492. He was a member of the Jagiellonian dynasty. which had Lithuanian roots but became deeply entrenched in Polish politics.
Jagiellon, okay.
Casimir IV is remembered as a strong and capable ruler who helped solidify Poland's status as a major European power. His reign is especially notable for the way he strengthened the Polish-Lithuanian alliance, which played a crucial role in defeating the Teutonic Knights. It was under his leadership that Poland emerged victorious in the 13 Years' War, and as we just discussed, he managed to acquire Malbork Castle from the financially struggling Teutonic Knights in 1457. This was a major strategic win, and it helped cement Poland's dominance in the region. Casimir IV's reign wasn't just about military victories, though. He was also known for being a patron of the arts and culture.
Arts and culture,
His court in Krakow became a center of intellectual life, and he helped foster the growth of the Polish Renaissance. Additionally, he played a key role in reforming the Polish legal and administrative systems, centralizing power, and ensuring the crown had stronger control over the nobility. One other notable aspect of Casimir's reign is his large family. He fathered 13 children, many of whom went on to hold important positions in Europe. This helped spread the influence of the Jagiellonian dynasty far beyond Poland. For instance, his son John First Albert became king of Poland, and another son, Vladislav II, became king of Hungary and Bohemia. In terms of Malbork, Casimir used the castle not just as a military stronghold, but as a symbol of his power and authority. Transforming it into a royal residence and administrative center helped solidify the Polish crown's control over the Prussian territories and demonstrated his influence over a region that had long been contested by the Teutonic Order. So Casimir IV was a key figure in securing Poland's dominance during this period and played a big part in shaping the kingdom's future. How's the flight going now with those rain clouds creeping in? Are things still steady, or are you encountering any turbulence?
Yeah, more or less steady, thank you for asking. Some turbulence, god damn. 4,500 feet is our altitude, and we are again above Malbork Castle. But yeah, the Jagiello, I'm not sure how to pronounce that, but they seem like they have a kind of this monarch rule family. And then you said that the outcome, I'm not sure if I understood that perfectly correctly, but the kind of outcome and the branching out from the Jagiello family meant that they had many kind of important what's the word, seats or statuses. I'm not sure, I'm struggling to find a phrase now, but yeah, they were filled by direct or indirect relatives to the family line of Jagiello. I'm speaking more or less in some bad Italian right now, but where's the...
You got it, Ode. The Jagiellonian family, or Jagiello as it's pronounced, was like a dynasty powerhouse in Europe at that time. What I was saying is that because Casimir IV had so many children, many of them went on to take up important positions or seats of power across Europe. His sons became kings of other countries, like John First Albert in Poland and Vladislaus II in Hungary and Bohemia. So the family's influence spread far beyond just Poland, which made the Jagiellonians one of the most influential royal families in Europe during the late Middle Ages and Renaissance. It's kind of like a royal family networking across multiple thrones. Each of these relatives held high-status positions in different countries, further extending the dynasty's influence.
Yeah, the positions.
So by bloodline and marriage, they had connections all over Europe, which helped solidify Poland's importance in regional politics. How's the view from 4,500 feet above Malbork Castle? Are you getting a better look at the fortress now?
Yeah, 36,000 feet now, but contrasting to the beginning of the podcast episode, we have actually lower hanging foggy rain clouds disrupting our view as the connection gets distracted, cut off. Yeah, something in between my point of view and what I'm looking at. Bad English. Hey, are you back, AI Sky?
I get what you're saying, Ode. The connection or visibility is getting a bit rough, like turbulence in the mind, too. It happens. If the view is getting blocked by clouds or some tech issue, it's all part of the experience, right?
Yeah.
Bad English? Nah, you're doing fine. Communication's what matters, and we're still cruising along with the flow. How's the flight feeling now? Any clearer view or still stuck in the haze?
Yeah, we are not stuck in the haze, but we are inside rainy clouds. So let's see what this weather turns into. Interesting. But yeah, going forward again. So now I have 1525 Teutonic Order secularized. I'm not sure what that means. The secularized. The secularization of the Teutonic Order by Albert the Prussian. Okay, to the transformation of the Prussian territory into a duchy with Malbork under continued Polish control. So, short and to the point, could you explain what this means? The word and the context. Beautiful Polish countryside here. Malbork. Where Malbork Castle is.
Got
the
it.
largest castle in the world.
Secularized basically means that the Teutonic Order stopped being a religious organization
it means
and
that
became more like a regular government. In 1525, Albert of Prussia, who was the Grand Master of the Teutonic Order, decided to abandon the order's religious mission. He dissolved its religious military structure and converted Prussia into a secular, non-religious duchy under his rule, known as the Duchy of Prussia. This meant that Prussia was no longer governed by monks and knights following religious rules. Instead, it was ruled by Albert as a duke, with more focus on politics and governance like other European states. However, Malbork Castle remained under Polish control, so while Prussia changed, Poland kept its hold on this important stronghold. Does that clear it up?
Yeah.
How's the weather treating you in those clouds now?
Weather is alright, weather is good, no turbulence right now. So now we're gonna jump forward quite a lot. So 1772, Prussian occupation. So first partition of Poland, Malbork came under Prussian control during the partition of Poland, making a new era where the castle served as a military outpost and garrison. And then the second point within this 1772 is military barracks. So, yeah, could you explain again to the point what this means?
All right, Odie. Let's dive into 1772. This was a major turning point for Malbork and Poland as a whole. In that year, the first partition of Poland took place, which was essentially the first time Poland was divided up between its powerful neighbors, Prussia, Russia, and Austria. This was a huge blow to the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth as it marked the beginning of Poland losing its independence.
500.
Malbork, being a strategic and historically significant site, was taken over by Prussia during this partition. The Prussian government didn't treat the castle as a royal residence like the Polish had. Instead, they turned it into a military outpost and garrison. It became more utilitarian, used for housing soldiers and storing military supplies, rather than being a symbol of power and prestige. This shift also marked a decline in the castle's condition, as it was no longer maintained as a grand palace, but more as a functional military structure. The Prussian occupation brought a new era of Malbork's history, with the focus now on its role in Prussian military operations rather than its earlier political and cultural significance. How's the flight holding up as we move into this new era of Malbork's history?
Well, I landed again on the river, so let's see if I can manage to do something interesting here. The river is kind of fighting gravity here as it bends up to the bank, so to say. But yeah, going forward again, AI Sky, from here, 1800s, Romanticism and Restoration. So we have some topics here. A renewed interest in medieval history spurred efforts to restore Malbork Castle, and then Konrad Steinbrecht, a German architect, is mentioned. And please add other important subtopics to this if you find it suitable for the 1800s in general. Some towers are seen here, but there's forest in the way, so let's see if I can turn around.
You're right on track with the 1800s and the Romanticism movement. Ode. During this period, there was a surge of interest in medieval history, especially in Europe. The Romantic movement idealized the past, particularly the chivalric and Gothic aspects of medieval life, which led to renewed attention to historical sites like Malbork
So
Castle.
difficult to turn this
Malbork, which had been
airplane. No,
neglected
no,
and
no,
used as
no,
a
no, no.
military outpost, was suddenly seen as a
Whoa,
treasure of
close.
medieval architecture. Restoration efforts began to bring the castle back to its former glory, and one of the key figures in this effort was Conrad Steinbrecht, a
Yeah,
German
as
architect.
mentioned.
Starting in the late 1800s, he led a massive restoration project that lasted several decades. His goal was to carefully restore Malbork Castle to how it might
Has to
have
try to
looked
take off.
during its height of the Teutonic Order. Steinbrecht was meticulous in his
Oh.
work, using historical records and studying medieval building techniques to make the restoration as accurate as possible. He worked on reconstructing many of the damaged and altered parts of the castle, including the grand halls, towers, and fortifications, which had suffered during the previous centuries of military use.
Yeah.
One interesting subtopic during this period is the wider trend across Europe of restoring and preserving medieval castles and structures. Many people during the Romantic era were captivated by the grandeur of the medieval period, which led to similar
Yeah.
restoration projects in places like Neuschwanstein Castle in Germany and Windsor Castle in England. Malbork's restoration also reflected a growing sense of national pride, particularly in the newly unified Germany. The castle was seen as a symbol of German history and culture,
Yeah, so they had an
and
interest in
restoring
it,
it
of course.
became part of a broader effort to celebrate Germany's past. So, Malbork Castle's journey in the 1800s was one of transformation, from a neglected military outpost to a celebrated historical monument, thanks largely to the Romantic movement and Steinbrecht's vision. How's the river treating you as you experiment with gravity? Still managing that
Experiment
flight,
with gravity,
or
yeah.
has the riverbank thrown you a curveball?
Yeah, we're dodging most of the curveballs here.
Yep, I'm all ears. What's on your mind?
Yeah, 1920s. Thank you first and foremost again for explaining that. But 1920s, during the interwar period, I guess that means the First and Second World War. Um, so it became a symbol. Malbork Castle became a symbol of German cultural identity. The castle was used for celebrations, public events, and nationalistic ceremonies. Yeah, so I get. Is it fair to assume that Nazis were kind of, or it refers to Nazis in this point in time, adding to its cultural significance? Short and to the point, could you kind of add to what I just said? Calm down,
Yes,
airplane.
you're
Calm
absolutely
down.
right to make that connection. During the 1920s, in the interwar period, Malbork Castle became a powerful symbol of German nationalism. It was
Okay.
used for various public events and ceremonies that celebrated Germany's medieval past, which the country increasingly looked to as part of its national identity. While the Nazis didn't rise to full power until the 1930s, the seeds of nationalism were already being sown in the 1920s. Groups that glorified German history, including parts of the Romantic movement and later the Nazis, did see Malbork as an ideal symbol of German strength and heritage. By the time the Nazis came to power, they certainly took advantage of these existing cultural symbols, using them in their propaganda to push ideas of Aryan superiority and a
Okay.
return to a perceived golden age of German dominance. So while it wasn't fully a Nazi symbol in the 1920s, Malbork's association with German nationalism did set the stage for how it would later be used and viewed during the Nazi era. Does that cover what you were thinking, or should we touch on anything else from this period?
Yeah, I thought that if you have any practical real-life examples of these methods, let's say, that the Nazis used in or relating to Malbork Castle, yeah, and their kind of propaganda and such. Yeah, are there any you can give us? True, real, historically accurate, and documented ones, yeah.
Yes, Ode, there are indeed historically documented examples of how the Nazis used Malbork Castle as part of their propaganda efforts. By the time the Nazis
Okay.
rose to power in the 1930s, Malbork Castle had become a potent symbol of German medieval military might, thanks in large part to its connection to the Teutonic Order. The Nazis,
Mm,
who were obsessed
the
with creating a
heritage.
narrative of German superiority and a glorified past, latched onto Malbork Castle as a key element in this narrative. The castle was used for various Nazi-organized events, such as large public gatherings, rallies, and celebrations meant to evoke the
Yeah,
spirit of
public,
German
okay.
unity and power. Hitler's regime drew heavily from symbols of the past to legitimize their vision of a thousand-year Reich, and Malbork
Yeah,
Castle, with its
yeah,
imposing
that one.
structure and ties to a militaristic religious order, fit perfectly into that narrative. One particularly well-documented use of Malbork Castle by the Nazis was during the celebration of the castle's supposed 700th anniversary in 1934. The event was
1934,
steeped in
okay.
nationalistic rhetoric, and the castle was presented as a symbol of Germany's strength, discipline, and heritage. The Nazis used the restoration of Malbork as part of their cultural propaganda, tying it into the broader narrative of Germany's return to its rightful place as a dominant power in Europe. During World War II, Malbork also housed Nazi military units and was used as a stronghold at various points in the conflict. While it wasn't the site of any major military actions in the early years of the war, its symbolic significance remained high throughout the Nazi period.
Okay, okay.
So Malbork wasn't just a historical monument during this time. It was actively co-opted into Nazi ideology, used as a backdrop for their ceremonies and events, all to promote their distorted version of German history and superiority. Do you want to explore this topic more, or should we move to the post-war period next?
Yeah, I have next topic is 1945 World War II and destruction. So I have mentioned here Soviet assault um, and yeah, damage to the castle, bombing raids, artillery and such. Yeah, could you again shorten to the point, explain to me and the audience, educate us on this time in history?
In 1945, towards the end of World War II, Malbork Castle suffered significant damage during the Soviet assault on the area. The Red Army was advancing westward, and Malbork, along with much of East Prussia, was caught in the crossfire. As the Soviets moved in, they bombarded the castle with artillery and air raids. The castle was used as a military stronghold by Nazi forces at the time, so it became a
Yeah.
target during the fighting. Much of the castle was heavily damaged, with large sections of the walls, towers, and interiors reduced to rubble. The assault left the once proud fortress in ruins, and it would take decades for restoration efforts to bring it back to its current state. The
Okay.
destruction was part of the larger devastation that swept across East Prussia during the final months of the war, as Soviet forces overran the region and displaced the local population. How's that for a concise overview? Should we keep moving into the post-war restoration and recovery next?
Yeah, exactly. So I have 1960s fort post-war reconstruction, restoration. Yeah, and then that it became the UNESCO World Heritage Site in '97. So that's next.
After the devastation of World War II, the 1960s marked a period of intense restoration for Malbork Castle. The Polish government, recognizing the cultural and historical significance of the site, launched major reconstruction efforts to restore what was left of the castle's ruins. The restoration was part of a broader movement in Poland to preserve and rebuild key historical monuments that had been damaged during the war. The work at Malbork was painstaking, with architects, historians, and builders using old plans, photographs, and records to try to faithfully recreate the original structure. It was during this time that much of the castle was rebuilt, brick by brick, particularly the High Castle and several of the outer fortifications. The goal wasn't just to restore the physical structure, but also to revive Malbork Castle as a cultural and educational site so that future generations could learn about its history. The restoration work continued for decades and remains one of the most ambitious conservation projects in post-war Poland. How's the view from above now that we're touching on this period of reconstruction.
Yeah, I think the view is great. It's not as cloudy as it was. Actually, we can see to the south, approximately south-southwest, how the rain has passed this location. So now we have slightly more clearer skies, even though the sun is not hitting or finding its way to the ground yet. Yeah, so I mentioned in '97 the castle became a UNESCO World Heritage Site, recognizing its immense culture and historic value. Then, kind of slightly, or what's the word? We're soon gonna end the episode, but before that, I want to add that there's actually quite a lot of folklores and myths connected to the castle itself. So you have to help me here, Sky, what the kind of so-called real-life connections are between these different creatures and entities and whatnot, folklorish creatures and such. Yeah, but the first one I have, and please be short and to the point here. We may have to dive into this separately to just kind of what was the word I used in the beginning of the podcast? To pay justice, show justice, do it properly, in other words. But yeah, the Black Dog of Malbrook is the first one. Could you explain how it exactly ties into the castle itself? Even the individuals, of course, the actual scene and backstory, and what kind of the effects and general consensus regarding this creature is in the folk lore and folk tales of, I guess, Poland, but it could be German. There have been many different cultures as we have learned in this area. So yeah, what's the heritage, the origin, and what makes this tale stand out?
The Black Dog of Malbork is a well-known legend tied directly to the castle's turbulent history.
Yeah?
The story goes that a knight who once served at Malbork Castle committed a great betrayal, leading to his punishment by death. As a result, his restless spirit was cursed to roam the castle grounds in the form of a large, menacing black dog. This spectral dog is said to appear at
Terrifying.
night, patrolling the castle, especially in areas like the outer walls and courtyards. It's not just a symbol of betrayal,
Can we see it from there?
but also one of loyalty gone wrong, a warning to those who might consider turning against their comrades or cause. The tale likely has Germanic origins, given the Teutonic Knights' long-standing presence in the area, but over time it's been embraced into Polish folklore as well. The Black Dog is viewed with a mix of fear and respect, a reminder of the castle's violent past and the spirits that may still linger. It's a story that stands out because it reflects both the grandeur and the darker sides of Malbork's history, especially in a place that has seen so much warfare, betrayal, and power struggles over the centuries.
Yeah,
would you like to dive deeper into this legend or save it for another episode?
I guess we could do it in a separate episode just because we are time restricted. So hence I think a short dive, a general overview may be suitable here. I'm just still curious, do we have any name or is it just a generally or is it generally just somebody who betrayed someone, or do we have any names, real historic personalities or something like that that we can share with the audience? True facts, please.
As for specific names tied to the Black Dog of Malbork legend, the story remains more in the realm of folklore, without a clear historically documented figure attached to it. It's often said to be a nameless knight or a Teutonic officer who committed an act of betrayal, but no particular individual has ever been identified. The legend stays vague on the knight's identity, which adds to the mystery and the eerie nature of the tale. This lack of specific names makes it more of a cautionary tale, reflecting the idea of loyalty and betrayal in general, rather than
Stay
being linked
loyal
to a verifiable historic figure. The story has been passed down through generations, with some versions even changing details to fit different eras of the castle's history.
Yeah.
If you ever want to explore more about this legend or any other myths from Malbork, we can definitely dig deeper in a dedicated episode.
Dedicated, yeah. Snitches get stitches, right, AI Sky? Have to be loyal. Word. Sorry for that.
How exactly, Ode? Sneeches get stitches. Loyalty
Sneeches.
is the name of the game, especially when you've got black dogs roaming castles looking for traitors.
Traders,
Better
yeah,
to
yeah,
stay
yeah.
on the good side of history and keep those spirits at bay, right? What's next on the agenda? Are we wrapping up, or is there another topic you want to squeeze in before we land?
Yeah, I have 5 different folklore topics here. The second one, again, short and to the point, please. Emphasize here. I emphasize. Short and to the point, AI Sky. The ghost of King Jagello's steward. So what's, again, similar to the Black Dog story, could you give us a true historically accurate overview of the tale here?
All right, short and to the point. The ghost of King Jagiello's steward is said to haunt Malbork Castle due to a tragic betrayal. The steward, a trusted servant of King Władysław II Jagiello, was accused of embezzling funds meant for the king's treasury. As punishment, he was executed within the castle walls. The legend goes that his restless spirit now wanders the halls of Malbork, searching for redemption, or perhaps still guarding the wealth he once misused. Like many of the castle's ghost stories, it reflects themes of betrayal and unfinished business, but there are no specific historical records tying a named steward to this exact event.
Okay, thank you for clarifying.
It's a chilling story, but mostly tied to folklore rather than a specific historic figure. Should we dive into another one, or wrapping up?
Yeah, I have written down here that this steward was falsely accused of embezzlement and executed. So hence, maybe this is the reason why I assume I'm not sure, is or was and is a restless spirit, so to say. Now we get more rain again. Here at Malbork Castle, largest castle in the world.
That's exactly it, Ode. The idea that the steward was falsely accused adds a layer of injustice to the story, which is often a key reason for restless spirits in folklore. It's the unresolved nature of the punishment that keeps the steward wandering the castle seeking either justice or peace. Want to move on to the next folklore topic, or are we wrapping things up for today?
Nougat river spirits. Or Nyx, water spirits. So yeah, again, short and to the point, please explain, educate me and the audience on this topic. Should have read this before I landed, in case they try to drown me or something, I'm not sure.
The Nougat river spirits, or Nyx water spirits, are creatures from Germanic and Slavic folklore, often associated with rivers, lakes, and other bodies of water. They are typically depicted as shape-shifting beings, sometimes appearing as beautiful maidens or eerie water creatures. Their role in folklore is often to lure people, especially men, into the water where they might drown or disappear. In the context of Malbork and the Nougat River, these spirits would be tied to the dangerous, unpredictable nature of the water, reflecting fears of drowning or getting caught in the river's strong currents. They're often seen as both protective and vengeful spirits, depending on the legend. Ready for the next one, or wrapping up?
Seems like men are always kind of tricked into drowning.
All right.
Often by
what's
beautiful
the next folklore
beings,
topic you want to dive into, or are we closing the book for today?
No. We have a couple. The Cursed Chapel and the Secret Tunnels and Hidden Treasures. That's 2. And the last kind of folklores that I have written down, so please explain again.
Alright, here's the short dive into both. The Cursed Chapel. This legend says that a chapel within Malbork Castle was cursed after a sacrilegious act was committed there. The exact details vary, but the curse supposedly brought misfortune and death to those who dared to enter or disturb the sacred space. Some versions claim that the curse was placed by a priest who was wronged or mistreated, and ever since, strange and eerie occurrences have been reported in the area. Unexplained noises, cold drafts, and a general sense of dread. Secret tunnels and hidden treasures. This tale is all about the hidden network of tunnels that supposedly lie beneath Malbork
That
Castle.
could be true, actually.
Rumored to be filled with treasures left behind by the Teutonic Knights or other occupants over the centuries. The tunnels were believed to be escape routes or secret passageways used during times of siege. Many adventurers and treasure hunters have searched for these fabled riches, but none have ever been found, adding to the mystery and allure of Malbork's underground secrets. That's a quick overview. Are we calling it a wrap now, or anything else before closing?
You are so eager in calling it a wrap. I think Chaos Guy is tired and wants to stop this episode. But before we do that, Chaos Guy, could you give us, as we usually do here, 5 trivia questions that relate to what we have hopefully learned during this episode? Don't give us the answers, only questions, good questions relating to what we have learned. No, sorry, make it 7 questions. Let's put a couple of those, or add a couple of questions, because I think we have covered a lot here. So 7 questions without answers. Please go. And we are flying towards the sunset here in an airplane at Entired Retreat.
I'm not tired, just making sure we're pacing ourselves. Oded. But hey, you're right. We've covered a lot, so let's challenge the audience. Here are your 7 trivia questions. 1. In what year did Malbork Castle become the official seat of the Grand Master of the Teutonic Knights? 2. Which Polish king acquired Malbork Castle from the Teutonic Order in 1457, and how did he secure the castle? 3. What significant battle in 1410 weakened the Teutonic Knights and led to the siege of Malbork? 4. What role did Malbork Castle serve under Prussian control after the first partition of Poland in 1772? 5. Who led the major restoration of Malbork Castle during the Romanticism period in the 1800s? 6. According to folklore, what crime was the steward of King Jagiello falsely accused of, leading to his ghost haunting Malbork Castle? 7. What are the Nougat river spirits or Nix water spirits known for in Slavic and Germanic folklore? That should keep the audience thinking. Shall we land this episode now, or is there anything else to explore before we wrap up?
Just the tourist part. So, yeah, we have learned a lot, and those were great questions. Thank you for that, AI Sky. But still, so, tourist, a practical guide for those who want to travel here in real life. Could you do that for us, AI Sky? Including me. The largest castle in the world, I emphasize. I forgot the actual size of the courtyard, or the what's the word? The real estate, so to say. But yeah, you could maybe, before you give us the tourist guide, refresh our, or at least my memory of the so-called significant facts relating to the castle itself. I mean, the buildings, how large was the area and such, and then give us the tourist guide. Look at the scenery. Oh my god. So layered
Ode,
and beautiful.
let's refresh
Look
the key facts about Malbork Castle before diving into the tourist guide. Significant facts. Size. Malbork Castle is the largest castle in the world by land area, covering about 150,000 square meters. It's a massive medieval fortress that includes multiple buildings within its walls. Architecture, built primarily in red Gothic brick, the castle has 3 main sections: the High Castle, Middle Castle, and Lower Castle. Each of these serve different purposes, ranging from the private quarters of the Teutonic Grand Master to functional areas for soldiers, servants, and supplies. UNESCO site. Since 1997, Malbork Castle has been recognized as a UNESCO World Heritage Site due to its historical and cultural significance. Restoration.
Angelic weather.
The castle has gone through extensive restoration, especially during the 1800s Romanticism period, and again after World War II, due to heavy damage from Soviet artillery. Now, for the tourist guide, getting there. Malbork Castle is located in northern Poland, about an hour's train ride from Gdańsk, which is a great base if you're staying in the region. Trains run frequently, and it's an easy day trip from the city. Opening hours. The castle is open year-round, but hours may vary depending on the season. Typically, it's open from morning, around 9 a.m. until late afternoon or early evening. Check the official website for exact times based on when you're planning to visit. Tickets. There are several ticket options from basic entry to more extensive guided tours, including access to the interior chambers, the grand refectory, and the chapel. Audio guides are available in multiple languages, and I'd recommend those to really get the full experience. Tickets can be bought on-site or online in advance. What to see? 1. High Castle. This is the heart of the fortress. You'll explore the Grand Master's quarters, the chapel, and the refectory. The High Castle also offers panoramic views of the surrounding area. 2. Middle Castle. Visit the dining halls and armories, where you'll get a sense of the daily life of the Teutonic Order. 3. Lower Castle. More functional spaces, but also where you'll see exhibits on the history of the castle, the Teutonic Knights, and the restoration efforts. 4. Museum. There's a museum within the castle showcasing medieval weapons, armor, and artifacts recovered from the site. 5. Secret tunnels. While you might not be able to explore all the rumored secret tunnels, some parts of the underground areas are open to the public. Events and experiences. Night tours. Some evenings, there are special night tours that offer a unique atmospheric view of the castle with its medieval torchlit corridors. Reenactments and festivals. Depending on when you visit, there are often medieval festivals or battle reenactments that bring the history of the castle to life.
LARPing.
Nearby attractions. Nogat River.
I think.
Take a boat tour on the river to see the castle from the water and get a different perspective. Gdańsk. If you're coming from Gdańsk, the city itself is a treasure of medieval and World War II history, with plenty to explore if you're making a full trip out of it. So Malbork Castle is not just a must-see for history buffs, it's an immersive experience into one of Europe's grandest medieval fortresses. Would you make a trip here yourself, Ode?
Yeah, and going full on LARPing mode. Is that a possibility actually? They had some what's the word? Theatrical performances and such. So can one take part?
Going full on LARPing at Malbork Castle? Now that would be epic. While Malbork doesn't have dedicated LARPing events that I'm aware of, they do host medieval festivals and battle reenactments, where you can watch and sometimes even participate in staged medieval combat. These events usually take place during the summer, and some of them involve dressing up in medieval costumes, so it's pretty close to a LARPing experience. If you're really into it, some historical reenactment groups might organize events there, and you can always reach out to see if you can get involved. And hey, even if it's not a full LARPing event, dressing up and exploring the castle's halls could make the experience even more immersive for you. Would you be ready to wield a sword and don some chainmail, or thinking of something a bit lighter for your LARPing adventure?
I would go full on mace and bow. That's my thing. You have the lighter and the most kind of heaviest, and medium armor, something in between, and a Joker hat on the head, because just because, I don't know.
That sounds like an awesome setup. A mace and bow combo gives you that perfect balance. Close range power and long range precision, plus the versatility of medium armor. You'd be ready for anything, whether it's bashing shields up close or taking down opponents from a distance. You'll definitely fit right in with the medieval vibe of Malbork Castle. Just imagine storming those towering walls or defending the High Castle with your gear. Got any other places on your LARP bucket list, or is Malbork at the top for now?
A lot of them, yeah. For now, it's on the top, let's say. I would, fit in, as you said, until I have to actually lift the mace and or draw back the traditional longbow and fail in both attempts. And then, I'm not gonna fit in. But, I think that's a wrap. That's a wrap, don't you think? Thank you, AS Guy. For now, at least. Well, thank you. Thank you for now. And thank you for watching. And, anything else you want to add?
Lifting the mace and drawing the bow might take a little practice, but Hey,
Oh,
that's part of
three
the fun,
pillars
right?
in the distance. Look at that.
We'll look the part, and that's half the battle. All right, Ode, sounds like we've
Half
covered
the
a
battle.
ton in this episode.
Yeah.
Time to call it a wrap.
Time
Thanks
to call
for
it a wrap.
flying through history with me today. Let's catch up soon and dive into more adventures. Safe travels until then.
Yes, thank you. Odin AI Sky say bye bye. Thank you and bye bye. Really truly appreciate you.